Good day, grade 10 learners! Are you excited with our new lesson? I'm hoping that you are now in your comfortable place to learn. As we learn today, we will venture on different concepts in creating a comprehensive and complete essay, so don't forget to grab your pen, notebook, and your English book. Just relax, open your mind and ears, and hopefully, you will learn everything that you will need to learn today. I'm Liwayway and Pascua from Villa Concepcion High School, Bacolod Extension, your teacher in English 10 for Quarter 3, Week 8. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to compose an independent critique of a chosen selection. Let's get started. What is a critique? A critique is a genre of academic writing that briefly summarizes and critically evaluates a work of concept. Critiques can be used to carefully analyze a variety of works such as creative works like novels, exhibits, film, images, and poetry. Research like monographs, journal articles, systematic reviews, and juries. And media like news reports and feature articles. Writing a critique on a work helps us to develop a knowledge of the subject area or related works and understanding of the work's purpose, intended audience, development of argument, structure of evidence or creative style, and a recognition of the strengths and weaknesses of the work. Critiquing a short story. Critiquing a short story is usually in the form of an essay. It is in-depth evaluation of the story for the purpose of giving the reading public insight into the story. Writing a critique requires you to reassemble the elements in such a way that your intended audience has a better understanding of the story's flaws and highlights. Aside from learning the different parts of a literary analysis essay, it is also important to consider the following concepts to create a comprehensive and complete essay. 1. Audience analysis, and 2. Using textual evidence. In writing a comprehensive and complete essay, one should be remembered. It is your audience. Audience. Consider the reader for whom you are writing your essay. Imagine you are writing for not only your professor, but also the other students in your class who have about as much as education as you do. They have read the assigned work just as you have, but perhaps they have not thought about it exactly the same way. In other words, it is not necessary to retell the work of literature in any way. Rather, it is your role to be interpreter of the work, to tell what certain elements of the work mean in relation to your central idea or thesis. When you make references to the text of the short story, poem, or play, you are doing so to remind your audience of something they already know. The principal emphasis of your essay is to draw conclusions and develop arguments. So, be sure to avoid plot summary. The next to remember in writing a comprehensive essay is the use of textual evidence. The skillful use of textual evidence like summary, paraphrase, specific detail, and direct quotations can illustrate and support the ideas you are developing in your essay. However, textual evidence should be used judiciously and only when it directly relates to your topic. The correct and effective use of textual evidence is vital to the successful literary analysis. Let's tackle first using a summary. If a key event or series of events in the literary work support a point you are trying to make, you may want to include a brief summary, making sure that you show the relevance of the event or events by explicitly connecting your summary to your point. Here is an effective summary with its relevance clearly pointed out. From the essay, The Secret Lion. The boys find the grinding ball. but later attempt to bury it. That is the summary. Burying it is the futile attempt to make time stand still and to preserve perfection, the relevance. You mentioned about the summary, which is found in the first sentence. Then you can tell your point and connect it to the summary just as what is written in the second sentence. Next, we can also use paraphrasing. You can make use of paraphrase when you need the details of the original, but not necessarily the words of the original. You paraphrase to put someone else's words in your own words. Here is an example, also from paper on the Secret Lion, of how to translate original material into part of your own paper. Take a look at this original excerpt. I was 12 and in junior high school and something happened that we didn't have a name for. But it was nonetheless like a lion and roaring the way the biggest things do. How do we paraphrase it? Let's check this sample. Early in this story, the narrator tells us that when he turned 12 and he started junior high school, life changed in a significant way that he and his friends could not quite name and identify. I hope you understand how paraphrasing works. Now, let's have using of specific details. Specific detail. Various types of details from the text lend concrete support to the development of the central idea of your literary analysis essay. Take note, these details add credibility to the point you are developing. Here is a list of some of the details which could have been used in the developmental paragraph from the paper on John Updike's short story, A and P. See the paragraph again for which details were used and how they were used. Usually traffic, fluorescent lights, checkerboard, green and cream, rubber tile floor, electric eye, shoppers like sheep, house slaves, and pigs, neatly stocked food, dynamite. Are these words and phrases used in the sentence literally or figuratively? You can expand your essay by checking into these details and explain it as part of your criticism. Next, we can use direct quotations. Quotations can illuminate and support the ideas you are trying to develop. A judicious use of quoted material will make your points clearer and more convincing. As with all the textual evidence you use, make sure you explain how the evidence is relevant. Let the reader know why the quotes you cite are significant to your argument. Here are the guidelines and examples that should help effectively in using quotation. Number 1, brief quotations. 4 lines or fewer of prose and 3 lines or fewer of poetry should be carefully introduced and integrated into the text of your paper. Put quotation marks around all briefly quoted material. Prose example. As the manager of the A&P Lingual is both the guardian and enforcer of policy, open and close parentheses, 487. When he gives the girls that sad Sunday school superintendent stare, the reader becomes aware of Lingual's character as the A&P's version of a dreary bureaucrat who doesn't miss much. Open and close parentheses, 487. Make sure you give page numbers when necessary. Notice that in this example, the page numbers are in parentheses after the quotation marks but before the period. Poetry example number 4. From the beginning, the Duke in Browning's poem gives the reader a sense of how possessive he really is. That's my last dark chest of the world, looking as she were alive. Open and close parentheses 1 and 2. The reader cannot help but notice how, even though the Duke is talking about her portrait, his main concern is that she belongs to him. Notice that line number 1 is separated from line number 2 by a slash. Make sure you give the line numbers when necessary. Lengthy quotations should be separated from the text of your paper. More than 4 lines of prose should be double-spaced and intended 10 spaces from the left margin, with the right margin the same as the rest of your paper. More than 3 lines of poetry should be double-spaced and centered on the page. Note, do not use quotation marks to set off these longer passages because the indentation itself indicates that the material is quoted. Prose example. The first paragraph of The Secret Lion introduces the narrator as someone who was just entered adolescence and it is uncertain what to make of it. I was 12 and in junior high school and something happened that we didn't have a name for. But it was there nonetheless like a lion and roaring that way the biggest things do. Everything changed, just that, like the rug, the one that gets spills or better. Like the tablecloth, those magicians pull where the stuff on the table stays the same, but the gas from the audience makes the staying the same part not matter. Like that, open and close parentheses 41 to 42. Make sure you give page numbers when necessary. Notice in this example that the page numbers are in parentheses after the period of the last sentence. Poetry example. The Duke seems to object to the fact that his last Duchess is not discriminating enough about bestowing her affection. In the following lines, the Duke lists examples of this fault. Sir, 'twas all one, my favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bow of cherries some officious foot broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and its would draw from her alike the approving speech. Open and close parentheses, groaning 25 to 30. Be sure to provide the line numbers. Third, guidelines and examples that should help effectively use quotation. If any words are added to a quotation in order to explain who or what the quotation refers to, you must use brackets to distinguish your addition from the original source. Example, the literary critic John Strauss asserts that he, the young Goodman Brown, is portrayed as self-righteous and disillusioned. Open and close parenthesis number 10. Brackets are used here because there is no way of knowing who he is unless you add that information. Brackets are also used to change the grammatical structure of a quotation so that it fits into your sentence. Example, Strauss also argues that Hawthorne presents young Goodman Brown in an ambivalent light. Open and close parenthesis number 10. Brackets are used here to add s to the verb present because otherwise the sentence would not be grammatically correct. Number 4. You must use ellipses if you omit any other words from the original source you are quoting. Ellipses can be used at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of the quotation, depending on where the missing words were originally. Ellipsis is formed by either 3 or 4 periods with a space between each period. Original. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Example, omission from beginning. This behavior makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Have you seen where is the ellipsis positioned? Ellipsis formed by 3 dots used in place of the words and early to rise. Here is an example, omission from end. He said, early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy. Where is the ellipsis positioned? Ellipsis is formed by 4 dots before the quotation marks. The 4th dot is really a period which ends the sentence. Number 5. Use a single line of space periods to indicate the omission of an interline of poetry. Example, the Duke seems to object to the fact that his last Duchess is not discriminating enough about bestowing her affection. She looked on and her looks went everywhere. The dropping of the daylight in the west, the bowl of cherries, some officious food, broke in the orchard for her, while the white mule she rode around the terrace like an itch, will draw from her alike the approving speech. Open and close parenthesis, Browning, page 24 to 30. Check this original excerpt and let's compare. She looked on and her looks went everywhere. Sir, 'twas all one, my favor at her breast. The dropping of the daylight in the west, the bowl of cherries, some officious full, broke in the orchard for her, the white mule. She rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech. Have you seen the use of single line of space periods? Very good! It is used to omit or remove a line in the poetry. I hope you get it well. Now, let's have punctuating direct quotations. You will be able to punctuate quoted materials accurately if you observe the following conventions used in writing about literature. Number 1. When the quoted material is part of your own sentence, place periods and commas inside the quotation marks. Example: according to the narrator of The Secret Lion, change was like a lion, meaning that its onset is sudden and ferocious. As you have seen, the comma is inside the quotation marks, and that you should remember that in punctuating direct quotations. Number 2. When the quoted material is part of your own sentence, but you need to include a parenthetical reference to page numbers or line numbers, place the periods and commas after the reference. For example, the narrator of The Secret Lion says that the change was like a lion. Rias 41. The period is outside the quotation marks after the parenthetical reference. Number 3. When the quoted material is part of your own sentence, punctuation marks other than periods and commas, such as question marks, are placed outside the quotation marks, unless they are part of the quoted material. Example, not part of the original. Why does the narrator of The Secret Lion say that change was like a lion? The question mark is placed under the quotation marks because it does not appear in the original. It ends a question being asked about this story. However, check this example. The Duke shows his indignation. The Duchess could like everyone and everything when he says, Sir, 'twas all one. Open and close parenthesis, Browning 25. The exclamation point is placed under the quotation marks because it appears in the original. When the original material you are quoting already has quotation marks, for instance, dialogue from a short story, you must use single quotation marks within the double quotation marks. Example: Linjo tries to stop Sammy from quitting by saying, Sammy, you don't want to do this to your mom and dad. Close and open parenthesis, Updike 486. We are almost done. Here is an activity. Exercise number 1. Writing and finalizing your literary analysis essay. Instructions: after choosing the literature, prose, and poetry, you want to analyze and finishing the outline in last 7. Your task is to complete the whole literary analysis essay, applying all the concepts you have learned in the 8th class. You will be graded based on the following criteria. Great! I hope you understand the things that we discussed in enhancing and making your essay complete and comprehensive. Now that you know all the things that you should remember, you can already craft your own with confidence. Just always remember that in everything you do, you should know your audience for you to keep track. Again, this is Ma'am Liwayway Pascua. Thank you and keep safe, everyone.